So we know this weekend is the Indianapolis 500. We discussed earlier on how we've seen the number of women in the race shrink recently. So one of the most popular drivers, Danica Patrick, switched over to NASCAR. Now NASCAR has the Drive for Diversity program and has seen more female drivers, but no full-time drivers in the top series, the NASCAR Cup Series. So Emily, starting with you, for a young female racer racing ovals in the United States, does an IndyCar route or a NASCAR route have a more promising prospect?
Yeah, so in all transparency, Isha, I don't think either series necessarily has the perfect roadmap for a young female driver. Certainly, Danica's NASCAR career, depending on what part you are looking at, can be remembered for sheer moments of brilliance and potentially big disappointments. Overall, I would say her career in IndyCar was marked by more successes than it was while she was running in the Cup Series in her NASCAR time. And her first win was at an oval in the IndyCar series. So from that perspective, I would lean towards the IndyCar series. However, as someone who attended the Women with Drive Summit and had the opportunity to hear Steve Phelps in person share his dedication and commitment to creating a more inclusive environment within the NASCAR organization, I have a lot of faith that that organization is making it a priority. And certainly with their driver diversity program, I do feel like NASCAR is making it a priority to bring more women into the fold. So with all of that being said, I do think that there is great prospect, and in the next few years, I do believe that we are going to see women driving full time within that organization, just because they are creating an infrastructure for that to succeed and be successful. So we are just going to have to wait and find out. But in a perfect scenario, I hope both of them turn out to be the best opportunity for women to be receiving more full-time opportunities, especially on oval tracks.
Right now I would say it's to Emily's point, it's probably neither IndyCar or NASCAR. It's probably more like the NHRA or Monster Jam has a lot of female competitors. Sports car racing, obviously with the Iron Dames, there's a lot of different options out there. But if we had to limit it to just these two, which I think getting back to Kaylee Bryson would be her two most likely future paths for her career, I think it's really a toss-up at this point. Obviously Jamie Chadwick just broke a 14-year stretch with no female driver on the Indy Lights / Indy Next podium, which I think, if you had told somebody that we were going to go that long in, the late 2000s, early 2010s, when you had Pippa Mann and Anna Beatrice, in that series coming up through the IndyCar ranks, Simona De Silvestro, another one that I think, maybe didn't get enough of a full-time opportunity in the IndyCar series to show what she could do. I think that would have surprised a lot of people, but it's 2024 and here we are. Danica Patrick's always been a very interesting career case for me because, Kevin Harvick even, I think, said this on Happy Hour on his old Sirius XM show several years back. He had a 20-year advantage over Danica Patrick when it came to NASCAR Cup Series racing. And, Danica could have developed, her skill, much faster than she did in the NASCAR Cup Series, making that transition over. That's something that, it was a matter of time that she just couldn't make up over, her Stewart-Haas racing teammates. And so that's the disadvantage when you start down one path and then the fame and fortune of stock car racing. NASCAR was still kind of at the tail end of its boom period when Danica made the switch over, fell to that temptation, if you will. I think that her career might be remembered, certainly would be remembered differently, might be remembered for being even better than it was if she had stayed in IndyCar, or if she had come over to NASCAR and spent a couple more years in the Nationwide / Xfinity series of junior motorsports before being rushed up to Cup. So I think that, either one could produce a promising path for a young driver, but I think in terms of looking at Danica's career, I'd like to see that driver stick with whichever path they choose. So if Kaylee Bryson's in an ARCA car for Venturini for the next couple of years and then, gets a truck or Xfinity ride beyond that, I think that should be the series that she chooses, at least, for the foreseeable future. I don't know. Maybe she blossoms into a Kyle Larson kind of superstar and then runs the double one day. I'd have no problem with that at all. But I think that, I think Danica was really just starting to get established as a household name in the IndyCar series. And, that was right when she made the transition over to NASCAR and left that part of her career behind and just could never quite capture that same magic. Emily, to your point, she sat on pole at Daytona and, had some good runs here or there, but there's no denying that her NASCAR career did not live up to the hype that her IndyCar career did in many respects, winning a race in Japan and, being a legitimate contender on a weekly basis for a couple of years in that Andretti car. So, again, I think it's a toss up in terms of which could be the more promising, more lucrative sort of deal for somebody like Kaylee Bryson. But I think whichever path she chooses, she's got to stick with, because if you try to make that career change halfway through your career, in Danica, I think is further proof of that. It's just very hard to make that work in the same way that you could succeed in just choosing one series and sticking with it for the rest of your career.